Welcome to the Pedal Collaborative podcast. We're so glad you're here. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Pedal Collaborative podcast. I'm your co-host, Alan, and here with me, as always, is my good friend and confidant, Paul.
How's it going, everybody?
Paul, how are you? You sound, I don't know.
I'm elated.
You're elated?
Right yeah.
Why are you elated?
Well, it's a beautiful day. As I told you right before we started, I'm not closing my window regardless of sound because it's too nice out here.
And like the window is open.
Yeah,
so we could hear like birdies.
You're going to hear birds and cars going by the whole time.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
I was like, I'm not doing this.
No.
But it's a beautiful day. It's 70 degrees here, which feels
crazy?
Really nice after the long winter.
Yeah.
So
I was just talking to a buddy in LA. He's in LA right now, and it's like in the low 50s and raining.
Yeah.
So
East Coast is where it's at right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the good weather, the good vibes. I've been enjoying that a lot. And then in the things I'm excited about that we have to talk about, I didn't record it yet, but I was setting up for the next round of Clone Wars.
Oh, yes.
And I was just messing with just some sounds. Just
nice.
Playing around. And a little shout out to our friend Steve Demadash, who's been on the podcast before.
Yeah.
I have still been basically the only new pedal I've played with for the last few weeks, just because spoiler alert to anybody who doesn't know how content creation works. All of our first sounds videos and stuff were recorded like probably a few weeks ago, maybe even a month ago, some of them, because we just record them and we get the pedals and then we put them out. So that also, as we both travel or get sick or live life, there's content
or all
for
three
you
at the same time.
Yeah, there's content. Yeah, it's literally what's happened.
Or I get really mad at the performance of one video, so I just release another one the next day. It's good to have those in the can.
We as much as anyone needs dopamine from people liking our videos. So, but that all to be said, a pedal I've just basically for the last, I think, week now since it came to my house.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it seems longer because I played with a lot. I've just had the new Solaris Tri-Chorus from Demadash just sitting on my desk and playing with it.
Yeah.
And now, if you are in the United States, it does kind of suck now because since Steve is a Canadian, there are tariffs to import his
It's not
pedals.
Steve's fault.
It's not Steve's fault. No, I feel like we are proof that U.S. and Canadian relations should continue.
I think the pedal world is proof.
Yes, there's good Canadian builders. But that Solaris analog Tri-Chorus, it was one of those things where I was setting up for Clone Wars, and the reason I didn't record any yet is because I was like, you know what, I'll just play around with this for a little while, and then I didn't get anything done because I was.
And how many hours later?
Yeah, and it's a really cool pedal. We'll have a video of that as soon as It's one of those pedals that there are actually 6 different chorus options within it.
Oh wow.
So I haven't quite felt confident to go and record a video of what it sounds like, even because I'm still finding new sounds. And though sometimes we record those, I feel like this is one that I want to really show off.
Right.
It's got a lot it can do, and I want to understand what each knob is doing in each setting of chorus. So,
well, and I don't think I'm checking right now that I don't think there is other content online for that.
There might be one, but I think Steve made it himself.
Right.
So yeah,
You like my typing?
Yeah, I hear you typing.
All
All that to be said,
yeah.
While you're typing and looking this up, how are you doing? Since you asked me and I said I was doing great, and I said the weather in this Demadash pedal had me in high mood.
So. I'm doing well. I am probably a little annoyed because you didn't send me the Solaris.
Well, I was going to send you the other one too.
Well, I know, but come on, like
you have a box coming to you right now.
I know.
I dropped it off. I know
I do.
Yeah.
And the Enzo X is in there, and it's very like I did I? Yeah, I mailed it to you before I went to LA. Right.
Yeah, and then I played with it, and I sent it back to you. So
no, I know.
With another pedal to model on the Enzo X. Spoiler alert: presets coming soon.
Presets are coming soon. No, I was you were in Vegas for a week, and then I was in LA for a week, and then I came home and I got sick.
Yes.
So
pooping out both ends of your body.
I don't think people want to know that.
They do. They want to know. Yeah,
okay.
It's part of the charm.
Wait till, like, for those of you who want to get more graphic on that, the first episode of Pedal Collaborative Podcast After Dark is just going to get nasty.
Did we call it After Our Dark or After Hours?
I don't know. After Hours, maybe.
After Hours sounds more loungy. Let's go with After Hours.
Just lounging as we talk about.
Yeah, we're soft launching this as a thing we're gonna do at some point. Where
yeah, but I don't think we're like soft launching. Talking about my gastrointestinal virus is not.
Yeah.
I don't think I think people are like, dear God, get off this thing. Oh man. This is great because we also don't really do a whole lot of post editing on our podcast. It's just us.
No, I fully want this. This is part of the episode.
It's in there. It's in there. Well, yeah. Neither of us have time to edit it out, so we self-produce. No, I was saying that being gone for 2 weeks, not feeling well, it's really hard to pick up my guitar and do stuff. And I did it like one day. I grabbed because we got the Old Blood Noise BL13, like that the final BL. It's an octave pedal, and that came in, and I was playing around with that. But I also, because I am a sucker for germanium, I had found on somebody selling, I think it was on Reddit, somebody was selling a germanium Keeley Superfat, which is his BD2.
Yes.
And you know me and germanium, so I just bought it. I mean, I think he was trying to trade it, and I'm like, dude, I'll trade it for cash. Just what do you want for it? So
yeah,
it's a lot hairier than I was expecting, and it's rad. So I played around with this a little bit, but all that to say, Enzo X, I'm missing the Enzo X, and I'm glad that you sent it back to me.
Yes, it's coming back to you as of today.
It is. But can we talk for a quick second? This is not at all what we were going to talk about when I told you my idea.
We can talk about whatever we want to, and we can do that another time if we go too long.
This is what we do. It's our life,
and we can do whatever we want.
Everybody just like listens to it. I don't know why. Let's talk about these damn tariffs, because it's not because our buddy Ryan from Dr. Scientist.
I know, that was such a cool thing.
He drops. And I don't even know if it's actually happened yet, because
if it's been happened yet.
If it's been happened yet, I haven't gotten a newsletter email. Man, my brain's firing in 85 and a half places at once.
I'll pick up here. Dropped a small batch of the Tremolescence.
Like small batch, like 5 of them.
5 of them. There's 5 of them. And it includes a little bundle of the Stumpbox 365 calendar, which is very cool and artsy, and I like, and I go on. And then a business synthesizer card.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get stickers and pics and some other goodies.
Right.
And you sent this to me, and I was like, oh, sweet. And then you were like, oh, no, but Canadian tariffs.
Well, that was the thing. Like, we had talked to Steve about these prototypes, and it was like we had to strategically plan when to make that happen because of the tariffs, right? Like,
yeah, I'm hoping they go away soon. That's my hope.
I mean, if mainstream media is any indicator of what's going to be happening, it is not going away soon.
Well, I guess the used market for Canadian pedals is going to be hot. Get your Fairfields, get your Demodash, get your Dr. Scientist, Montreal Assemblies.
Is it Guptech or Guptech?
That's not one I know very well, but I think I actually don't know how it's pronounced, but I know which company you mean.
Yeah.
But there's another big Canadian builder we're forgetting.
And there's a guy, man. Oh man. His pedals have like the map of Canada on them. I'm drawing a blank. Damn, that's bad. Canada guy. We'll call him Canada guy.
Yes.
No, but so many good pedal manufacturers coming out of Canada, and was it 25% tariffs to the U.S.?
Yeah. So Rev, Diamond, Winnipeg Electric.
Winnipeg. That's who
you meant when you said the flag, because the flag is on it.
Flag or the map?
I think it's the flag. Maybe it's the map.
Okay. Anyway.
I was like, I know that Solid Gold Empress too.
Yes. Oh man.
Oh, son of a bitch. It's dead. Tariffs, man.
A company whose aesthetics you don't like, now you're like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, well, but they make good pedals.
They do. They really do.
It just sucks that they won't be around for people to make. Well, they'll be around. They're in the used market, but like any new things or people wanting new ones.
Yes, sorry, it is the Winnipeg Electric is the one I'm thinking of, because they also just released a Blues Deluxe.
Yeah, I think you sent that to me.
I did, because it's really sexy.
You're also just really on this blues driver style
I've
thing
always, but
recently.
that's always been my
I
thing
know, but
since
it's like
I've known who I am.
yeah, since
I
you figured that
self-identify
out.
as a blues driver guy.
Yeah, that I think you sent me that a couple weeks ago,
I did.
but
I did.
yeah, so what's that become if we add tariffs? Let me just do some little
I think you have to add, like,
mm,
times 3
why
is how you
times
do the math.
3? That's not
Times
how
3.
25% works, you just add 25%.
I don't think you know how it works.
I don't think you know how math works. So, a pedal that is $191.
So, say $200, now you're adding in $50, it's $250 now. I'm way rounding right now.
I'm just gonna do the actual math because that's, like, here for us. That's $50 to 191.
Yeah, that's
So,
kinda what
well,
I said.
$47.
Okay,
So,
so you added 2.
238 for a pedal
So
that's 191.
you're stepping on, like, you're throwing me shade for rounding when you round it. I love
Well,
it.
it's fine.
Everybody,
It
this is Paul's and my second fight ever.
yeah, of how to round math.
How to round math
Yeah,
for tariffs.
yeah, the tariffs are when you sent me the thing earlier, I was about to say, like, "Let's just get the Doctor Scientist thing," and then so, tariffs.
So what
Tariffs and
I
how they
mean,
affect us as guitar players.
uh, so how do we get around it? Does this mean, like, we have to travel to these countries and buy them in country?
I suppose that gets around it.
I mean,
I'll be real, the more I hear about tariffs, the less I think I okay, I think I do understand how they work, it seems pretty straightforward.
you just
Uh,
pay more. The
and
end user pays more.
I've been laughing a bit about how, as a person who grew up with the Star Wars prequel movies,
Okay.
the, like, premise at the beginning of those movies is there's a trade war that, like, starts everything, like, the
Oh,
Trade
I think it's called
Federation
the
is block
Clone Wars. It's
no,
not
no,
Trade
the
Wars.
Trade Federation is blocking Naboo from the trade routes, and they're putting high tariffs on everything, and they're starving out the people. And I
Okay.
saw some people recently because, like, those movies got a ton of flack for being too political or, like, "This would
Right.
never happen." And someone was like, "We're literally living Star Wars Episode 1 right now." And I was like, "Okay,
So
that's not quite
where's
what we're living,
who's
but we are
Natalie
having a
Portman?
trade who in our trade dispute."
Well, in our world now,
Who's gonna save us from the trade dispute by
who's
bringing
Natalie Portman?
who's gonna bring the Jedi in is what you're asking me.
I don't think that's what I'm asking you.
Who's Natalie Portman? I mean, Natalie Portman exists in our reality, so Natalie
She
Portman is
does.
Natalie Portman.
That's true.
So what you're asking is who is the person who's going to bring in peacemakers to try to stop the war from happening? That's a great question because I don't know the answer.
Thank you for telling me my question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what you were asking me, and you lost your own train of thought. Yeah, I don't. I chuckled because there's quite a few people pointing out that Star Wars Episode 1 is very relevant to trade wars right now because we're doing trade wars and just making things more expensive all the
I
time.
would ask who Jar Jar Binks is, but I think we all know.
Yeah, we'll just leave that as it is.
Yeah. But yeah, I think what I should be doing is like, since my work does require some travel, I'll just tell me where we need to go to avoid the tariffs.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that plan. Well, we'll see if we can find a way for you to get to Canada sometime soon.
I mean, it's just like a couple hours away from us.
Yeah, it's true.
So, all right. So that's not what I want to talk about today.
Yeah, you wanted to talk about the thing we always touch on, and
Always touch on.
I don't even know what angle you want to take on it. You just said I want to talk about this.
I know, right? Because it popped up on one of the Facebook comment thready thingies today.
Oh, good. Okay.
So, yesterday, I guess we're recording today, Tuesday, March 11th, but yesterday we dropped the Walrus Chi versus Microcosm, and just kind of like how like could the Chi come close to the Microcosm, blah 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 blah. And one of the things that popped out, it was kind of like somebody has the Chi, they love it, and then just it said like, but I don't use it in stereo, I only use it in mono. And that kind of got me thinking to some of our conversations about mono versus stereo. Like, you know me, I am a fiend for two things, germanium and stereo.
Yes.
Oh my God, if somebody could come out with a germanium stereo pedal.
I'm sure they exist.
I mean, you just do, yeah. Anyway, bunny trail. But I love stereo. I love it. I love it. I love it. And to me, like, I'm not interested in any of these modulations or time-based effects that don't sound good in stereo. It has to sound good in stereo. Like, great case in point for me is the Earthquaker Devices Avalanche Run V2. I love that pedal. I love the concept of that pedal. The reverb is fantastic. I hate the delay because it's just mono. dual mono, mind you, but it's just mono. There's no movement there. So every time I get that pedal to try and say, like, I'm going to keep it, I love it, I get to that point, I'm like, no.
I think we, in an earlier episode, talked about how many times you've had that pedal, too.
I know. It's, like, a lot. Yeah. 4 or 5. If V3 comes out and it's, got MIDI and stereo delays, I'm all over it.
Yeah, golden.
I'm absolutely, Jamie, let's do it. Let's do a pedal collaborative version of it. I'm in. And I don't think it's not really a secret, nor does it need to be. You, Paul, let's talk about you with some delay, or sorry, mono versus stereo. Like, you got yourself the LVX and love it, and then you went on this little journey of putting it into your live rig and not loving it so much because it wasn't doing the same things that you were wanting from a mono perspective as it does in stereo.
Yeah, and I don't think we actually talked about this. We've talked about it in real life, but not on the podcast. But yeah,
podcast is real life.
Yeah, I guess it is. The LVX though, the same way that Natalie Portman exists in reality, the podcast is real life. You
should get her on the podcast.
I would love to talk to Natalie Portman. So yes, the LVX in stereo sounds, I mean, anyone who's followed us has listened to an LVX video we've done at some point. It sounds awesome. No problems with the LVX. It sounds great. When I started playing live again and put the LVX in the slot my timeline used to occupy my actual pedal board for playing shows, instantly felt like I was missing like half the pedal. It did not translate to summing to mono in a way that was like pleasing. It still sounded good, mind you, but in ways where like, and I remember texting you, I was like, dude, the LVX in mono does not sound like, it's not robust. It's like not giving me anything. And then trying to like figure out, like, I had to play a bit with the mix and like turning the mix up a lot to get it to give me the same sound I get out of it in stereo. Right. Whereas the timeline, which is now back on my live setup, honestly, the timeline doesn't sound that different in stereo than it does in mono to me.
Sure.
The timeline just kind of sounds like the timeline, which we have also discussed how there's some like warm things that happen in that magic there that are both good and bad.
Right.
In a setup. But it was odd because, I mean, I'm not carrying 2 amps around or counting on anybody having a stereo setup to play ampless live anywhere. Right. So it was one of those situations of just like, well, I guess the timeline's going on my rig because I need a mono setup because I can't deal with like missing half of the sound.
Right.
And I often, so I inversely of you, generally if a pedal doesn't sound good in mono, it doesn't stick around for me, because if I'm plugging into an amp and it doesn't sound good, like that is a problem for me. It's a big problem for me. Because I tend to try to find, so there's two things for me where that comes into play. Pedals that I'm going to play with on my pedal board, they have to sound good in mono. Mm-hmm. If they sound good in stereo, that's a plus. Pedals that are for my synthesizer setup, they have to be stereo and sound great, because I'm not going to run a mono out. Like if my synthesizer is stereo out, it's not converting to mono anymore. That's not happening. So I have like kind of 2 worlds I live within, which is why the LVX now lives on my desk, which has been delightful to have as a way to shape synthesizers, and or when I'm just like doing guitar stuff on my desk too. It's like throw the LVX in the stereo setup. Right. But yeah. Well, I have another bunny trail to go on, but I want to let you continue your thought.
I think that, so this comment, I know I responded with it doesn't matter if you don't use stereo. It doesn't matter if it sounds good in stereo to you. Meaning, like, so many guys that are and gals and others that are playing live and going mono, like, by all means, go mono. Do what works best for you, and you don't have to sit and be like, well, I don't do stereo, so what does it matter? You can still get a stereo pedal and just run it in mono. That's fine, as long as it sounds good. And then the vice versa is true. Like, for me, like, granted, I'm just playing it in my home studio, aka guest room, but it's not like it's like, that's okay if it's a delay or reverb or modulation that's mono, and I'm like, well, screw that, I don't want it because it's just mono. That's okay, because that's what works for me and the way that I play.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the basis for all of this, and why I wanted to just chat real quick and kind of get your thoughts. It's almost like in some ways bringing this to the signal chain series where we just kind of talk about some of the basics on what to understand. And, I think the bottom line of it is like, you do you. Get what sounds good to you. Have your reasons for it. Because then if someone's like, "Oh yeah, dude, like I don't like mess around with stereo because like I always just play mono." Like, okay, great. Like
Yeah,
that's
that's
a great
fine.
that's fine.
Yeah, I've played the Chi both ways, and it sounds good both ways.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the
and I
Chi's a
mean
great
with
sounding pedal.
the
So
cheese specifically, like I don't know if you noticed this. I know we were texting about it, but like it's got the 4 different effects algorithms in there. It's got the chorus, the delay, the reverb, and the granular.
yeah.
They're all stereo, but they're not all widely spread on the stereo field. I think like the granular effect is very wide, but like the chorus is not that wide. And I,
No.
I think they did it very
Uh, well, when you put it to stereo, it's wider than the tri-chorus.
right. But I mean, I guess where I'm going with it is that like it's not like the Mako series where you can adjust the stereo
Yeah,
spread on each
spread
of the
it
thing. Like
far left to right
certain those
extremes. Yeah.
algorithms for the most part are predetermined as how wide they are. I think Walrus did a great job doing that because like you're not the different effects aren't fighting each other for the stereo field, but
Yeah, I think we might have talked about this on the episode when we talked about the Chi when it came out, but in general, I think that something they did with both the spread and then also like the mix of 4 effects in one pedal,
mhm,
they never something about that pedal that I really dig is they never get smushy
right,
like together. Like
right.
I almost feel like to the point of you saying this is not super spread is the chorus isn't super spread, but I feel like the delay and the verb are more spread. So it's like they actually occupy different places in your
Mhm,
spread when you're listening to
mhm,
it in stereo,
sure.
which is cool.
Yeah,
It's a great design. If I don't I have no physics data to other than just my ears hearing it that it feels like they each kind of have a different lane of width they live within
right,
that allows you to hear things more completely and in a pleasing musical fashion instead of just creating noise.
right.
So
But in mono, there is no spread,
no,
and it
and it
still
doesn't
sounds
sound
good.
bad. It still sounds good. It's a well designed pedal,
Yeah,
which I say that's why I said it's like the spread and the mix. I think they did a good job.
right,
So
right.
to both things.
So I mean, yeah, from your standpoint, do you have any takeaways for people who are like uh, looking at something that is either mono or stereo or not mono or stereo and how to make that decision? Like what should I mean, there's because there's so many things out there for people to be choosing from. How do we know? How do we decide? Uh, what's Paul's take?
Yeah, well, we talked about this a bit on the one episode when someone asked like how to build a board that's like how do I know if I should build mono or stereo? And it's like look at how you play. Do you play live more and you know that you're not going to have a situation where you can drag 2 amps around or you know you're always playing where there's not going to be a stereo PA setup because that's pretty rare. And then secondly, the other piece of that is this is like a very practical, especially if you're like a starting out building a pedal board, is like what cables do you have to work with?
Mm.
And trying to figure out if you have enough patch cables because something I was just going to throw into this as something that's been a new trend and I was actually just with the newest Demo Dash pedals
Yeah.
is the chorus is actually like true stereo in that you have a left and right out
Okay.
as opposed to the T120 Deluxe V2 was a TRS stereo out. Uh,
Okay.
and that's something to consider about your setup. How do you like what's going into what? What's going into
Right.
what? Like, because I know actually when we did my spooky board at Halloween time, I talked about how I had to start stereo at a certain point because I wanted it to go stereo and not cut back anywhere or summing.
Right.
And just figuring out like what you want to go into what, how that's going to play out. I know there's like, where's the looper go in your board? Do you have a stereo looper? Do you have a mono looper? Just
Right.
figuring out what works for your setup is how you figure out what you need to do. It is funny that this is something that comes up often though, because I've seen like posts recently where like newer guitar players online will say like, "What's the second output for?"
Yeah.
and because it is something that like I remember even when I first got pedals that had both, I was like, I don't really know how to do this. Like, how
Mm.
does this work? I
Sure.
plug in 1/4 inch at the end, so how does it work? And I feel like just trying to figure out what your setup is the easiest way to figure out like how you're going to design your whole signal chain of
Right.
is this a mono board, a stereo board, a mono that goes to stereo, um, God forbid, a stereo board that sums to mono, depending on the situation.
Well,
That can be a
I
thing
was
too.
actually just thinking that, and I was thinking that, a lot of people have, an HX Stomp, for example, or some other, amp sim device,
Yes.
and, like, HX Stomp being at the end of the chain,
Yes.
because I like running my wet effects into an amp, not using it as an effects loop. That's my
Yes.
personal thing, but that's just me. It's not right or wrong, it's just me. But, like, I could have a fully stereo rig, be jamming at home practicing, have my headphones in, and get everything out of that full stereo rig, and then if I'm going to a gig, I just plug the one thing in, like the left mono out, and now it's all mono. I would still need to make sure that it sums well, like
Yeah,
that
because some pedals don't sum well.
some pedals don't sum well, so that is the si ki ti blah, that is the aspect of it, and then you're right, like, figure out what your playing style is, what your rig is like, where you're playing. Make sure your pedals sound good to you like that,
Yep.
and you know, if it's mono to mono, mono to stereo, stereo to mono, whatever the case is, just go with what works for you, what brings the most musicality and creativity from you.
That's a great way to put it. What brings the most musicality and interest to your own ears?
Yeah.
That's this. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add other than just figure out what works for you, what sounds good to you, and also make sure you have enough patch cables. Because I've also, even as a person who has tons of stuff, sometimes I run into a situation where I don't have the right length patch cable when I design a board setup, and then I'm
Mhm.
really annoyed, and I have to figure out:
Yeah,
do I buy another cable right now? Do I quickly solder another cable right now? Do I have enough George-L's to solderlessly do this? And it's a pain in the ass. So
it is, and I will say if you're running a stereo rig, for impedance matching, you probably wanna have the same length output cables between your board and your amps. Because if
yes,
you have, like, a 10-foot on one side and a 50-foot on the other,
it's gonna sound not good.
yeah.
Which
Impedant, I
that's
think, is the
almost sort
word.
of a whole 'nother thing
Well,
if we
we can talk about that.
talk about
Um,
the length of your cable and how it affects your tone, which is very funny how much it actually does. A
yeah,
lot,
size matters.
quite a bit, yes.
Size matters, Paul.
I do have a non-related to this
Yes, let's
guitar
do it,
pedals
let's do it.
post, that was today, and I usually don't do this, but I really liked the username for this. It was
Okay.
Baba Yaga Jr.
Baba Yaga Jr.?
Yeah, I just liked it.
Okay.
And the question was, "What is your least favorite common guitar pedal effect?" And then the body of the text says, "And why is it tremolo?" Which made me laugh. Um,
I love those
but
things.
what is your least favorite common guitar pedal effect? Alan, go.
And I can't say fuzz because that's not true anymore. Um, I mean, flanger is probably up there for me and ones that I don't like. I remember when I got, like, the Line 6 MM4, and I think I mean, I had it for, like, a day because I got that section, and I'm like, "Ugh, it actually does sound like a jet, and I don't like it." I don't know. There's too much movement there. Um
Flanger can be applied in very specific ways, and I also feel like I saw this actually on the thread, and it made me laugh because I feel this way about several effects types. But flanger is one where I feel like it sounds cooler when other people use it than when I do it.
mm, and that could very well be, like, this could be something that, like, other players
Know how to
because, like,
implement it in their playing style better than I
right,
do.
right. Because how much of it was, like, 70s, 80s rock, that era of which I didn't really grow up listening to.
Yeah.
Um,
I always like the Haim sisters managed to make flanger sound cool in their guitar tones, and they
well,
make stuff.
Haim is they're just really cool. They're good.
They have a new song coming out this week, a new
I know,
single for their new
I
album.
know, I
Uh,
know.
yeah. So all right, so flanger's your answer though.
I think so. I think I can stick with that. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that goes into that category for me. But
I think that's good. Um,
what about you?
my answer is going to be a bit surprising, I think.
Why is it tremolo?
No, my answer is actually one that I think is oversaturation has caused it for me,
Okay.
which is I'm just kind of tired of shimmer reverb.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
shimmer reverb is
yeah,
one where I'm like, it doesn't work for me anymore. Shimmer reverb,
yeah.
I'm tired of it. I feel like, especially because like, I mean, now we've reviewed quite a few shimmer reverbs in our time of doing the channel and played them. Uh, I feel like it almost to me just immediately tone prints it to a certain era
Mhm.
when I hear shimmer reverb.
Yeah, Strum and Blue Sky V1.
Yes, that and all of the pedals that have come out since that sort of try to sound like that or do a new take on it. Now,
Right.
mind you, there are some great octave shifting reverbs out there.
Yeah.
I'm quite a fan, as noted on several episodes, of the Dark Star V3, which has the octave shifting.
Yeah.
That's a little different than Shimmer, the way it works, in my opinion.
Right.
But I feel like pedals that are dedicatedly Shimmer reverbs have like just worn down my brain, and I feel like I am like, someone comes out with it, I'm like, ugh, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Well, I think about that, and I'm fully agreeing with you. I honestly like that the Shimmer styles. I try and stay away from out of the Mercury X. Um, I I think, and I'm not blaming Strymon. Excuse me. I'm not blaming Strymon for it. Like that. To me, when the Blue Sky was out, that was mind blowing on to my playing and what I was doing, and nothing else had kind of done that. I think it is all of the ones that have come after the fact trying to capture that space and then doing it in a worse way. Like I'm thinking of like the Moor Shimverb, which I know I've knocked on this podcast before. It's like I tried to get into that just because it was cheaper, and it just like it sounded like metal nails on a metal chalkboard.
Yeah, a lot of them I feel like do sound that way. Like, exception to the rule, but even I don't use it that way a lot, is the Collision Device's Black Hole Symmetry one is a Shimmer reverb, but you can actually completely turn it off as well.
Yeah. Well, the Collision Device's crew, like they really go into designing their stuff.
Yeah.
Well.
Theirs are an exception where like they seem musical and interesting, and they seem to have like parameter control that lets you do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the ones that exclusively book themselves as a Shimmer reverb, like the Shimverb, there's others that are escaping. I know the Hall of Fame has a Shimmer mode now, because like basically every pedal after Strymon made that like ubiquitously a sound, like did it.
Yeah.
And it just, I'm much more fond of on the Mercury X the like the octave down ones, actually, like where it like pitches down at the end of a reverb, because it creates this like falling into a cavern feeling.
Yeah.
Which is more interesting to me than shining up to heaven.
It's because you're a black soul, black metal soul.
But yes, actually, I'll do another teaser thing of things to talk about. But I'm gonna have like, I think, my own Mercury X preset pack soon, because I have like 10 reverbs that I've made now. So I didn't even tell you that. This is news to you on the episode.
This is awesome.
I really ended up making a bunch of cool new ones that are like not necessarily like our typical emulation of another reverb sound. I'm just making like sort of soundscapey things that were like unique to my own brain. Some of which I've pulled from individual reverbs that I've used in the past, now that I have become a Mercury X guy. But yeah, I have quite a few. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean,
coming soon to a Patreon near you.
There you go. Patreon.com/pedal collaborative. I mean, at some point, I think the emulation is gonna wane, because there could be a point where we've done everything, right?
So we got to do some unique stuff, and I've just already started in that with the timeline ones we're gonna have soon, and
nice.
I'll have to have you approve my Mercury X ones. So
I'll approve. I just have to rename them.
Yeah, we send presets back and forth, and people don't know that process either. The QA process of, does this actually sound as good as I think it does?
Oh, the QC, the quality control. Yeah. Or like when I'm on a plane to LA, and you're like, "Where are those presets you said you're going to send me?" And I'm like, "On my hard drive at home."
Whoops. Yeah, not with you. Really bummed about that. You still need to send me those.
Dude, I know. Well, I can say, like, once I get the Enzo X back from you, it's in the mail right now. I'm about 8 or 9 presets in. I'll finish the pack out there, and then we'll have that to release. And those are all original. They're not really emulating anything, because how can you right now?
Yeah, well,
I mean, it's so unique.
We do have some ideas there.
I know we do, and we'll get there. But I think I have to learn it first, because like the UI on the Enzo X, I don't know if you noticed this. Like, while it is the same as the LBX and Mercury X, the engine itself is completely different. So to me, it's not adding, like, you don't get a delay and reverb when you're adding, different parameters to it. Like, it's a synth. Like, you're building a synth engine.
There's a lot of it's like a wavetable synth, but there's also like subtractive synthesis in there too. It's pretty cool. I mean, I'll say it live on the podcast. I told you, I like the Enzo X a lot more as a synthesizer than as a guitar synth pedal.
Yeah.
I think I may have determined that I don't like guitar synth pedals, even the nicest ones, because that is the cream of the crop of them.
Okay.
And every time I plug a guitar in and do a synth emulation, I'm like, I could just be playing a synth.
You
And
could be.
it keeps being that way from the original Enzo. I've tried a few of the Boss ones. I tried the mono one that I sent to you in the box of the Enzo X. They all sound cool. And don't get me wrong, the Enzo X sounds awesome. But like, it's one of those things where I'm just like, why would I play a guitar like a keyboard when I could just
Right.
play a keyboard?
Right.
Now, not everyone who plays guitar also plays synths. So
Right.
if you wanted the sound and you didn't play the other thing or own the other thing, totally makes sense. For me
Yeah.
personally, I remember when we were texting about it, I was like, okay, this thing sounds awesome, but I really want to plug a MIDI keyboard into it and just play it like a synthesizer. I don't want to play have my guitar become the input.
Right. Which is kind of how what I decided to do in terms of the naming conventions, because I had to figure a different naming convention for presets for the Enzo X. So there are ones that are just a mono synth, ones that are polysynth, ones that are dry synths, meaning that like you play guitar into them. That dry signal coming in is still on the output, and then one that I've made with the Enzo X as a synth, meaning no guitar, like a MIDI controller. So that'll all be explained as we get there. I know we were wanting to keep this short, so we'll wrap this up. Thank you everybody for hanging out with us. It was a pleasure as always. Join us next week when our special guest is Jar Jar Binks and Natalie Portman, and we talk more about tariffs.
Yeah, more about tariffs. Yes, have a good week, everyone. We will talk to you soon. I feel like there's something else I wanted to say that was like, vote on Clone Wars. We'll have more Clone Wars soon.
Oh yeah, vote on Clone Wars. Merry Christmas.
We're in the final 4. I think I called out one of them. I'm just going to say this real quick to wrap up here, which ones we're looking at. So we've got, I believe the matchups are the Klon KTR versus the Voyager Mark II.
Okay.
And the Nordvang Sig 1 versus the Origin Effects Halcyon.
Oh man.
So we got some good matchups.
Yeah, we do.
A lot of tweakability. I'm just gonna say the format we're using for this. So last time it was the same riff in a loop. This time we're still gonna have the same riff in a loop, but instead of the pedal being set sort of the way I set it to sort of be emulating off of the KTR, we're gonna do 3 different sounds. It's gonna be 0 gain, max drive, then 50% gain, then max gain for each pedal. So you sort of get a spectrum of what it can do as a drive.
Nice.
And then I have some ideas for the final round of whichever 2 pedals get there, but I won't share
Well,
those until next
this
week.
gain sweep, let's say thank you to Mr.
Yes,
Matt
1981
Hoops
Inventions, Matt Hoops.
from 1981 Inventions who suggested that.
Jumped into the comments and said, "Now give me one of these where it does 0 gain to max gain," and we decided to add 50 on our own. So
I love it because like he didn't have a pedal in the shootout, and he was still joining the conversation.
Was listening to them, which was fun. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right, we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.